Jake Miller pushed open the door to his small apartment and stepped inside. Snow fell from his jacket onto the floor. The cold wind followed him in before he could close the door. He shivered and rubbed his hands together. The date had been terrible. Amy from the coffee shop had seemed nice when they talked last week, but tonight she spent the whole time looking at her phone and talking about her ex-boyfriend. Jake paid for dinner and drove her home in silence. She did not even say goodbye when she got out of his car. Now he stood in his dark apartment alone again. The heater had broken 3 days ago. His landlord said he would fix it next week. Next week felt very far away. Jake could see his breath in the cold air. He walked to his bedroom and sat on his bed. The sheets felt like ice. Jake pulled a blanket around his shoulders, but it did not help much. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. The weather report said this was the worst winter storm in 50 years. Jake looked around his empty bedroom. No pictures on the walls, no one to talk to, no warm body to share the bed with. At 28 years old, he felt like he would be alone forever. His friends were all married or in serious relationships. They had stopped inviting him to parties because he always came alone. He worked as a software engineer for a small company that made communication equipment. Most days he sat at his computer and wrote code. He was good at his job, but it was lonely work. The other people at his office were nice enough, but they had their own lives. Jake went home every night to an empty apartment. The wind rattled his windows. Jake pulled the blanket tighter and lay down on his bed. The cold sheets made him shiver even more. He stared at the ceiling and felt sorry for himself. In the corner of his bedroom sat his latest project. Jake had been working on it for months in his spare time. It was a quantum communication array, built from parts he ordered online and some equipment he borrowed from work. He told himself it was for research, but really he just liked building things. It gave him something to do on lonely nights. The device looked like a metal box with wires and small lights. Jake had connected it to his computer and several antennas. He put on his roof. He was not sure if it actually worked. The math said it should be able to detect quantum signals from very far away, maybe even from other planets if anyone out there was sending signals. Jake had tested it many times but never found anything interesting. Just random noise and static. Still, he kept it running every night. Sometimes he pretended that aliens might be trying to talk to Earth. It was a silly thought, but it made him feel less alone. The cold was getting worse. Jake's teeth started to chatter. He sat up and looked at his breath in the air. This was ridiculous. He was a grown man, and he could not even keep his apartment warm. His life was falling apart. Jake stood up and walked to his window. Snow covered everything outside. The streetlights made everything look white and empty. No people walking around. No cars driving by. Just cold, empty whiteness. He pressed his face against the cold glass and sighed. The loneliness felt heavy in his chest. Jake had always been shy around people. Making friends was hard. Dating was even harder. He wanted someone to care about him, someone to share his life with. But it seemed impossible. Jake walked back to his bed and lay down again. He pulled all his blankets over his head, but the cold still got through. His feet felt like blocks of ice. His hands were so cold they hurt. In his frustration, Jake spoke out loud to his empty room. His voice sounded small and sad in the darkness. "I just want someone warm to share my bed with," he said. "Is that too much to ask? I do not need much. Just someone who cares, someone who wants to be here with me. Please, if anyone out there is listening, I just want to not be alone anymore." Jake felt stupid talking to no one, but the words had been building up inside him for months. He needed to say them, even if only the walls could hear. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. The wind kept howling outside. His quantum communication array hummed quietly in the corner, its lights blinking in the darkness. Jake did not know that his words had traveled farther than he thought. The quantum array had been working better than he realized. His signal had gone out into space, moving faster than light through dimensions he did not understand. Somewhere very far away, on a planet orbiting a different star, someone had heard him. The next morning, Jake woke up to loud knocking on his front door. He sat up in bed, confused. The knocking came again, strong and steady. Jake looked at his clock. It was 7 in the morning. Who would visit him this early? He got out of bed and walked to the front door. He was still wearing yesterday's clothes. His hair was messy from sleep. Jake looked through the peephole but saw nothing. The knocking came again. Jake opened the door and stared in shock. A tall figure stood in the hallway outside his apartment. She was almost 7 feet tall with golden fur covering her body. She had the face of a cat, but she stood on 2 legs like a human. She wore long, flowing robes that looked expensive and important. Behind her sat several large bags that seemed to glow with their own light. The creature looked at Jake with large, intelligent eyes. When she spoke, her voice was clear and elegant. "Greetings, Jake Miller of Earth," she said. "I am Zara Whisperwind of the Phylixian Empire. I have traveled many star systems to answer your sacred call for warmth. I am here to fulfill the thermal pact you have requested." Jake's mouth fell open. He could not speak. He could not move. He just stared at the alien standing in his doorway. Zara tilted her cat-like head and studied his face. "You did send the warmth request signal, did you not? My ship's computers detected it coming from this location. The message was quite clear about your need for thermal companionship." Jake finally found his voice. What? You are not real." Zara's ears flicked forward with what might have been amusement. "I am very real, Jake Miller. And according to the laws of my people, we are now bound by the sacred warmth pact. May I come inside? It is quite cold out here, and I have traveled a long way to be with you." Jake stepped back from the door, his heart beating fast. The alien catwoman named Zara stood patiently in the hallway, waiting for his answer. Her golden fur caught the light from the hall lamps. Her robes moved gently in the cold air. "This cannot be real," Jake said again. He rubbed his eyes, thinking he might still be dreaming. But when he looked again, Zara was still there. Her large green eyes watched him with kind concern. "I understand this is surprising," Zara said. "First, contact between species can be overwhelming. But you did send the thermal request signal. My people take such requests very seriously. We cannot ignore a call for warmth." Jake's mind raced. He thought about his quantum communication array. Had it actually worked? Had his lonely words last night somehow reached across space to an alien planet? "I was just talking to myself," Jake said weakly. "I did not mean to call anyone. I was cold and sad and I said stupid things." Zara's ears drooped slightly. "Among my people, requests for thermal sharing are sacred. They are not made lightly. If you truly did not mean to call for help, then I have made a terrible mistake. But now that I am here, I cannot leave until the pact is fulfilled. My honor depends on it." Jake looked at the alien woman standing in his doorway. She seemed genuine and sincere. Her voice carried a weight of sadness, as if his words had hurt her feelings. Despite his shock, Jake felt bad for upsetting her. "Look, I do not understand what is happening," Jake said. "But you seem nice and it is very cold out there. Why do not you come in and we can talk about this?" Zara's ears perked up immediately. "You will honor the thermal pact?" "I will try to understand what that means," Jake said carefully. Zara smiled, showing small, sharp teeth. She picked up her glowing bags and stepped into Jake's apartment. The bags were heavier than they looked, but she carried them easily. Jake closed the door behind her. Zara looked around the small apartment. With curious eyes, she examined the furniture, the kitchen, the windows. Everything seemed to interest her. She walked over to Jake's quantum communication array and studied it closely. "This is impressive work," she said. "Primitive by our standards, but creative. You built this yourself?" "Yes," Jake said. "I was trying to detect signals from space I never thought anyone would answer." "The universe is full of voices," Zara said. "Most species learn to listen before they learn to speak. Your people seem to do things differently." Jake realized he was still staring at her. Zara was beautiful in an alien way. Her fur looked soft and warm. Her movements were graceful and careful. She carried herself like someone important, like a queen or a diplomat. What exactly is a thermal pact? Jake asked. Zara set down her bags and turned to face him. Among my people, sharing warmth is the most sacred bond two beings can form. It means trust, protection, and mutual care. When someone requests thermal companionship, we are honor-bound to provide it. To refuse would bring shame to our entire family line. Jake felt his face turn red. I was not asking for... I did not want... It was not like that. Like what? Zara asked, tilting her head. Jake realized that Zara might not understand human customs about relationships and intimacy. Her people probably had very different ideas about sharing beds and personal space. On Earth, when someone talks about sharing a bed, it usually means something romantic or sexual, Jake explained, feeling embarrassed. Zara's eyes widened with understanding. I see the confusion. For Felixians, thermal sharing is about comfort and companionship, not mating. We share body heat to survive cold seasons and to show trust. It is like your human concept of friendship, but deeper. Jake felt relieved. So you are not here to, I am here to keep you warm and to provide companionship, Zara said simply. Nothing more unless you wish it. The thermal pact is about care, not desire. Jake looked around his cold apartment. His breath was still visible in the air. The broken heater made the place feel like an icebox. Having someone warm nearby actually sounded wonderful, even if that someone was an alien. How long does this pact last? Jake asked. Until the need for warmth is fulfilled, Zara said. For my people, this usually means through the cold season, several months perhaps. Jake's phone rang, interrupting their conversation. He looked at the screen and saw his boss's number. Jake answered the call, trying to sound normal. Jake, where are you? His boss asked. You were supposed to be here an hour ago. Jake looked at the clock and realized he was late for work. Sorry, I had an emergency at home. I will be there soon. Is everything okay? His boss asked. Jake looked at Zara, who was unpacking strange items from her glowing bags. Everything is fine, just some unexpected company. After Jake hung up, Zara looked at him with concern. You have duties to attend to. I will wait here and prepare our living space. Our living space? Jake asked. The thermal pact means we share the same living area, Zara explained. Do not worry, I will not touch your personal belongings without permission. I have brought my own supplies. Jake felt overwhelmed. An alien was moving into his apartment, and he had to go to work and pretend everything was normal. This was the strangest day of his life. I have to go to my job, Jake said. Will you be okay here alone? I will be fine, Zara said. I need to contact my ship and report that the pact has been accepted. Jake gathered his work clothes and headed for the shower. As the hot water warmed his body, he tried to process what was happening. An alien had answered his lonely wish for companionship. She seemed kind and sincere. Maybe this was not such a bad thing. When Jake came out of the bathroom, he found that Zara had arranged several small devices around his living room. The devices glowed softly and made the air feel warmer. The apartment was no longer freezing. Cold. Thermal regulators, Zara explained. They will keep us comfortable while your heating system is broken. Jake felt grateful. For the first time in days, his apartment felt warm and welcoming. Zara had made the space more comfortable in just a few minutes. Thank you, Jake said. I have to go to work now. Will you really be here when I get back? I will be here, Zara said. The thermal pact is sacred. I will not abandon you. Jake left for work with a strange feeling in his chest. It was not loneliness anymore. For the first time in months, someone was waiting for him at home. At his office, Jake tried to focus on his computer code, but his mind kept wandering. His coworkers noticed that he seemed distracted and happy. When they asked why he was smiling, Jake just said he had met someone new. Meanwhile, in Jake's apartment, Zara was having her own challenges. She used her communication device to contact her ship, which was hidden behind Earth's moon. Captain Starwhisker, she said into the device. I have made contact with the human who sent the thermal request. The situation is more complex than we thought. A gravelly voice answered from the device. Explain, Ambassador. The human did not know his words would reach us. Their species makes thermal requests casually, without understanding the sacred nature of such bonds. But he has accepted the pact, and I am now bound to fulfill it. Are the humans as primitive as the galactic records suggest? The captain asked. Zara looked around Jake's apartment. She saw the handmade quantum communicator, the simple but efficient furniture, the pictures of Jake with friends and family. These humans might be technologically behind other species, but they seemed capable of love and loneliness just like Felixians. They are different from us, Zara said carefully, but not primitive. They have emotions and needs that I recognize. I think we may have misjudged them. The captain's voice carried concern. Remember why you are there, Ambassador. We need allies against the Void Syndicate. If these humans can help us, then your thermal pact may serve a greater purpose. Zara nodded, though the captain could not see her. She had not told Jake about the real reason her people had sent her to Earth. The thermal pact was genuine, but it was also an opportunity to study humanity and determine if they could be useful allies in the coming war. As the day passed, Zara explored Jake's apartment and learned about human culture from his books, movies, and internet. She was surprised by humanity's creativity and resilience. They faced problems with humor and determination, even when they lacked the resources to solve them properly. When Jake returned from work that evening, he found Zara curled up on his couch, reading one of his science fiction novels. She looked up and smiled when he entered. Welcome home, she said. How was your day? Those simple words made Jake feel something he had not felt in years. He felt like he truly had a home, with someone who cared enough to ask about his day. It was good, Jake said. How was yours? Educational, Zara replied. Your species is very interesting. I have much to learn about human customs. That night, as they shared Jake's bed for warmth, both Jake and Zara wondered what they were getting themselves into. Neither of them knew that their unlikely friendship would soon change the fate of multiple worlds. 3 weeks had passed since Zara arrived at Jake's apartment. The two had settled into a comfortable routine. Jake went to work during the day while Zara studied human culture and stayed in contact with her ship. In the evenings, they shared meals and talked about their different worlds. Jake had learned that Zara's people, the Felixians, lived on a planet with 2 suns. Their world was always warm, and sharing heat was how they showed love and friendship. Zara had learned that humans were more complex than her people first thought. They could be kind without formal rules requiring it. The apartment felt like a real home now. Zara's thermal devices kept the place warm and comfortable. She had taught Jake some Felixian cooking, and he had introduced her to pizza and coffee. They watched movies together in the evenings, with Zara asking many questions about human stories and emotions. Jake was happier than he had been in years. Having someone to talk to, someone who cared about his day, made everything better. Zara was intelligent and funny. She told him stories about distant planets and alien cultures. In return, Jake showed her human music and art. But on this cold February morning, everything changed. Jake was getting ready for work when he heard a strange sound from the living room. It was a high-pitched beeping, urgent and worried. He walked out to find Zara staring at one of her communication devices. Her ears were flat against her head, and her tail was puffed up with stress. What is wrong? Jake asked. Zara looked up at him with fear in her green eyes. I am receiving an emergency transmission from my home world. The Void Syndicate has attacked 3 of our outer colonies. The Void Syndicate? Jake had never heard this name before. Zara's hand shook as she worked with her device. They are our greatest enemy, a species that feeds on thermal energy. They consume the heat from entire planets, leaving them frozen and dead. We have been at war with them for 50 years. Jake sat down next to her on the couch. How bad is it? The device projected a holographic image into the air. Jake gasped as he saw the destruction. 3 planets that had once been green and warm were now gray and lifeless. Ice covered everything. Cities that had housed millions of Felixians were empty and frozen. "They have new weapons," Zara said, her voice heavy with sadness. "Something that can drain heat faster than we thought possible. Our fleets cannot stop them. They are moving toward our core worlds." Jake put his hand on Zara's shoulder, trying to comfort her. Her fur was warm and soft, but he could feel her trembling. "How many people lived on those planets?" Jake asked quietly. 12 million Felixians, Zara whispered. All gone. Frozen. To death in their own homes. Jake felt sick. He had never seen such massive destruction before. On Earth, wars were terrible, but this was the death of entire worlds. Zara's device beeped again. She answered the call and a holographic image of an older Felixian appeared. He wore military decorations and had scars across his face. His expression was grim. "Ambassador Whisperwind," the military officer said. "I am General Proudclaw. The situation has become desperate. The Void Syndicate is moving faster than we expected. They will reach our homeworld within 6 months." "What are your orders, General?" Zara asked, though her voice was shaking. "Continue your mission on Earth. We need allies, and we need them, quickly. Learn everything you can about human military capabilities. If they can help us, we must form an alliance immediately." Jake felt confused. "Military capabilities? But humans are not even close to your technology level." General Proudclaw noticed Jake for the first time. His eyes studied the human with interest. "You must be the human who made the thermal request. I am surprised. Your species is more advanced than our records suggested." "I built a quantum communicator in my bedroom," Jake said. "That does not make humans advanced. You built quantum technology with primitive materials," the general said. "That suggests creativity and resourcefulness. Those qualities may be exactly what we need." Zara looked between Jake and the general with growing understanding. "You think humans could help in the war?" "Our formal military tactics have failed against the Void Syndicate," General Proudclaw admitted. "They adapt too quickly to our strategies. We need allies who think differently, who fight in ways they cannot predict." Jake felt overwhelmed. "I am just a software engineer. I do not know anything about fighting wars." "But you solved a thermal sharing problem in a way no Felixian would have thought of," Zara said. "You made a casual request that traveled across the galaxy. Your people approach problems differently than we do." The general's expression became urgent. "Ambassador, I am sending you updated intelligence about the Void Syndicate. Share it with the human leaders. If Earth agrees to help us, we will share our technology and resources, but time is running short." The transmission ended, leaving Jake and Zara alone with the terrible news. Jake looked at the images of the frozen planets and felt a deep anger building in his chest. No one deserved to die like that. "How can humans help?" Jake asked. "We do not even have faster-than-light travel." "We do," Zara said. "We can provide ships and weapons. What we need is new ways of thinking about the problem. The Void Syndicate expects formal military behavior. They have learned to counter our traditional tactics." Jake thought about human military history. Humans had always been good at improvisation and surprise attacks. They fought dirty when they had to. They used creativity to overcome stronger enemies. "We should contact Earth's government," Jake said. "They need to know about this threat." Zara nodded. "But we must be careful. If your leaders think I am an invader, they might try to capture me. We need someone who will listen and understand the situation." Jake had an idea. "My quantum communicator has been monitored by the government. I am sure someone knows about you by now. They might already be watching us." As if responding to his words, Jake's front door suddenly burst open. 6 people in military uniforms rushed into the apartment, carrying strange weapons. They moved quickly and professionally, surrounding Jake and Zara before either could react. "Nobody. Move!" shouted the leader, a tall woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She wore the uniform of the Earth Space Defense Force. "You are both under arrest for unauthorized alien contact." Jake raised his hands slowly. "Wait. We can explain everything. Explanation will come later, the woman said. I am Admiral Lisa Hayes. You have been under surveillance for 3 weeks. We know about the alien presence and we know about the communications with off-world vessels. Zara stood up gracefully, her hands also raised. Admiral Hayes, I am Ambassador Zara Whisperwind. Of the Felixian Empire, I request diplomatic protection under galactic law. Admiral Hayes studied Zara with interest. Galactic law? That is interesting. Most alien contacts we have dealt with involved invasion attempts or resource theft. You claim to be a diplomat. I'm here because of a thermal pact with Jake Miller, Zara said calmly. But I am also here to seek an alliance between our peoples. One of the soldiers, a younger man with captain's bars, stepped forward. Admiral, the alien has been living peacefully for weeks. No hostile actions detected. The human appears to be cooperating willingly. Admiral Hayes lowered her weapon slightly. Captain Blake, maintain security but stand down from active threat posture. Jake found his voice. Admiral, you need to listen to us. There is something much bigger happening. Earth is in danger. Explain, Admiral Hayes said simply. Zara activated her holographic device, showing the images of the destroyed Felixian colonies. The military officers stared in shock at the frozen worlds. The Void Syndicate is moving through this part of the galaxy, Zara explained. They consume thermal energy from entire planets. Our intelligence suggests they will reach the edge of your solar system within 2 years. Admiral Hayes studied the images carefully. These worlds were destroyed by energy. Drain? Complete thermal consumption, Zara confirmed. Everything frozen solid. No survivors. 3 planets in the last month alone. Captain Blake looked at the Admiral with concern. We have detected unusual energy readings from the outer system. Long-range sensors have picked up something moving this way. Admiral Hayes made a decision. Lower your weapons. If this is genuine, we need to know everything. Captain Blake, establish a secure communication line to Earth Command. We need to brief the full council immediately. Jake felt relief wash over him. You believe us? I believe in being prepared for threats, Admiral Hayes said. Whether this is real or an elaborate deception, we cannot afford to ignore it. If Earth is truly in danger, we need all the allies we can get. Zara stepped forward carefully. Admiral, my people have fought the Void Syndicate for 50 years. We have advanced technology, but we lack strategic creativity. Earth's military. History suggests your species excels at unconventional warfare. You want humans to help you fight this enemy? Admiral Hayes asked. We want to fight them together, Zara said. The thermal pact that brought me here may have been accidental, but it created an opportunity for something much larger. A real alliance between our worlds. Admiral Hayes looked between Jake and Zara, then at the images of the frozen planets. Captain Blake, cancel the arrest orders. We are going to need these 2 for briefings and contact the President. Tell him we have first contact and it is not what we expected. Jake realized that his lonely wish for warmth had started something that could save. 2 months had passed since Admiral Hayes discovered Jake and Zara in the apartment. Now they stood in a massive military facility hidden beneath the mountains of Colorado. The place buzzed with activity as humans and Felixians worked side by side, preparing for a war that would determine the fate of both species. The alliance had formed quickly once Earth's leaders saw the evidence of the Void Syndicate's destruction. 3 Felixian ships now orbited Earth, sharing technology and resources. In return, human military advisors studied Felixian tactics and proposed new strategies. But the cooperation was not going smoothly. Jake watched from an observation deck as the latest joint training exercise ended in disaster. In the simulation arena below, human soldiers and Felixian warriors had attempted a coordinated attack on a mock Void Syndicate base. The result was chaos. The Felixians fought with honor and ceremony. They announced their attacks, gave their enemies chances to surrender, and followed strict rules of engagement. The humans fought with speed and deception. They used sneak attacks, false retreats, and dirty tricks. Captain Ron Blake threw his helmet on the ground in frustration. This is impossible. They keep stopping in the middle of battles to perform honor rituals. By the time they finish their ceremonies, the enemy has already regrouped and counterattacked. Commander Swiftpaw, a Felixian military leader, bristled with indignation. Human tactics are dishonorable. How can we trust allies who use deception and lies as weapons? Warriors should face their enemies with courage and honesty. Admiral Hayes stepped between them before the argument could escalate. Enough. Both sides need to find a way to work together. We have less than 4 months before the Void Syndicate reaches the outer colonies. Jake turned to Zara, who stood beside him watching the failed exercise. This is not working. Our people are too different. Zara's ears were flat with worry. The Void Syndicate has destroyed 2 more Felixian worlds while we argue about fighting styles. We are running out of time and options. Dr. Amy Foster, a xenobiologist, who had been studying Felixian culture, approached them with a data pad in her hands. I think I found something important about the Void Syndicate. Want to see what I discovered? They followed her to a laboratory filled with alien artifacts and computer displays. Dr. Foster pulled up a series of scientific readings on the main screen. I have been analyzing the energy signatures from the destroyed planets, she explained. The Void Syndicate does not just drain thermal energy randomly. They have a specific feeding pattern. Jake studied the data. What kind of pattern? They prefer steady, consistent heat sources, Dr. Foster said. Like the thermal cores of planets, or the heat from large populations. But rapid temperature changes confuse their feeding process. If the heat source fluctuates too quickly, they cannot adapt fast enough to drain it efficiently. Zara's eyes widened with understanding. That explains why our formal battle tactics fail. We maintain steady energy output from our weapons and shields. The Void Syndicate learns to drain that energy over time. But human tactics involve rapid changes in strategy and energy use, Jake said, beginning to see the connection. Quick strikes, fast retreats, constantly changing approaches. Dr. Foster nodded excitedly. Exactly. Human military doctrine is built around unpredictability. That is exactly what we need to exploit the Void Syndicate's weakness. Admiral Hayes had been listening from the doorway. Are you saying that human chaos can beat their adaptation abilities? Controlled chaos, Dr. Foster clarified. If we can create tactical situations where energy use and battle patterns change rapidly, the Void Syndicate will struggle to feed on our forces. Jake had an idea. What if we do not try to make Felixians fight like humans or humans fight like Felixians? What if we create mixed teams that combine both approaches? Zara tilted her head thoughtfully. Small units with both species working together? The Felixians provide advanced technology and strategic thinking, Jake continued. The humans provide tactical unpredictability and rapid adaptation. Each team covers the other's weaknesses. Admiral Hayes considered this. It could work, but it would require unprecedented cooperation. The 2 species would need to trust each other completely. Jake and I have proven that humans and Felixians can work together, Zara said. Our thermal pact has taught us both about cooperation and understanding. Captain Blake entered the laboratory, still frustrated from the failed exercise. Admiral, I hate to interrupt, but we just received intelligence that changes everything. A Void Syndicate scouting fleet has entered the outer solar system. 3 ships moving toward Jupiter. Everyone in the room fell silent. The enemy had arrived ahead of schedule. Admiral Hayes took command immediately. How long before they reach the inner planets? At their current speed, 6 days, Captain Blake reported. But they are moving slowly, probably scanning for thermal signatures and defensive positions. This is our chance, Jake said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. We can test the mixed team approach against a small enemy force before the main invasion arrives. Zara stood up straighter. Jake is right. A scouting fleet will be easier to defeat than their main forces. If our new tactics work, we can learn from the experience. Admiral Hayes made a quick decision. Dr. Foster, how fast can you create thermal fluctuation devices based on your research? Give me 12 hours and a good engineering team, she replied. Captain Blake, select your best pilots and soldiers. Commander Swiftpaw, choose your most adaptable warriors. We are going to test this new approach in real combat. Jake stepped forward. Admiral, I want to volunteer for the mission. Absolutely not, Admiral Hayes said firmly. You are a civilian with no combat training. But I understand both human and Felixian thinking, Jake argued. Zara and I have been working together for months. We know how to coordinate our efforts. Zara supported him. Jake is right. Our thermal pact has created a unique partnership. We think and act as a team now. That could be valuable in battle. Admiral Hayes looked skeptical, but Captain Blake spoke up. Admiral, unconventional warfare requires unconventional soldiers. If their partnership is as effective as they claim, it could be the key to making mixed teams work. After a long moment, Admiral Hayes nodded reluctantly. Fine, but you two will be part of the technical support team, not frontline combat. Your job is to coordinate between human and Felixian units. The next 18 hours were a blur of activity. Dr. Foster's team created devices that could rapidly change the thermal output of weapons and ships. Human and Felixian engineers worked together to install the equipment on a joint strike force. Jake and Zara spent the time developing communication protocols that would allow instant coordination between the two species during battle. They created simple code words and hand signals that both humans and Felixians could understand quickly. The strike force consisted of 6 small ships, each crewed by both humans and Felixians. Jake and Zara were assigned to the command ship, where they would coordinate the mixed teams during the attack. As they prepared to launch, Jake felt nervous, but determined. 6 months ago, he had been a lonely engineer wishing for companionship. Now he was about to help fight an alien invasion force. Zara squeezed his hand as they strapped into their seats. Whatever happens, I am glad the thermal pact brought us together. Me too, Jake said. Ready to save both our worlds? Ready, Zara replied. The strike force launched toward Jupiter, where the Void Syndicate scouts waited. It was humanity's first real space battle, and the fate of 2 civilizations depended on whether a software engineer and an alien diplomat could make their unlikely partnership work under fire. Captain Blake's voice came over the communication system as they approached. The enemy. All units, this is Alpha Leader. Remember, rapid strikes and constant movement. Do not let them lock onto your thermal signatures. Mixed teams. Coordinate with your alien partners. Let us show these energy vampires what human unpredictability can do. Jake looked out at the stars ahead, where 3 dark ships waited like hungry predators. In a few minutes, they would learn whether human chaos and Felixian technology could overcome an enemy that had destroyed entire worlds. The real test of their alliance was about to begin. The battle against the Void Syndicate scouts had been a success, but it was only the beginning. 3 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the starship New Hope, watching as the largest space fleet in galactic history prepared for the final battle. The joint strike against the scout ships had proven that human unpredictability could confuse the Void Syndicate's energy-draining abilities. But now the enemy's main invasion force had arrived. 300 massive ships that looked like dark metal spiders, each one capable of draining the heat from an entire planet. The Alliance fleet was smaller but more diverse. 60 Felixian warships flew alongside 40 human vessels, their mixed crews ready to use the new combined tactics. Jake and Zara had spent months training these mixed teams, teaching them to think and fight as one unit instead of 2 separate species. Enemy fleet is taking position around Earth and the Felixian homeworld simultaneously, reported Captain Blake from his station. He had become one of the most effective human Felixian team leaders. They are planning to attack both planets at the same time. Admiral Hayes studied the tactical display with grim determination. They want to force us to split our forces, classic divide and conquer strategy. Commander Swiftpaw, the Felixian military leader, stood nearby with his ears flat against his head. We cannot protect both worlds with our current fleet size. We must choose where to make our stand. Jake looked at the display showing both threatened worlds. Earth was his home, where billions of humans lived their lives unaware of the battle, raging in space above them. The Felixian homeworld was Zara's birthplace, a beautiful planet with 2 suns that was now under siege. What if we do not choose? Jake said suddenly. What if we make the enemy think we are splitting up but actually coordinate a joint attack? Zara understood immediately. A deception operation. Make them think we are weaker than we are. Admiral Hayes raised an eyebrow. Explain. Jake pointed to the tactical display. We send half our fleet to defend Earth and half to defend the Felixian homeworld. The Void Syndicate will think they can defeat each group separately, but at the last moment, we use quantum communication to coordinate a simultaneous attack on their command ships. It would require perfect timing, Captain Blake said, and if the deception fails, both worlds could fall. Zara stepped forward. The thermal pact teaches us that sometimes the greatest risks lead to the greatest rewards. Jake and I have learned to trust each other completely. Our fleets must do the same. Commander Swiftpaw considered the plan. It is risky, but it uses both human deception and Felixian technology. The enemy will not expect such coordination. Admiral Hayes made the decision. We do it. Captain Blake, take half the fleet to Earth. Commander Swiftpaw, defend the Felixian homeworld. Jake and Zara will coordinate between both battles using quantum communication. As the fleet split up, Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Two worlds depended on his ability to coordinate the complex timing of the attack. Zara squeezed his hand, sharing her warmth and confidence through their long-practiced thermal bond. The battle began 12 hours later. Jake watched through multiple screens as both fleets engaged the enemy simultaneously. The Void Syndicate ships immediately began draining energy from the Alliance vessels, but the new thermal fluctuation devices prevented them from feeding efficiently. Earth fleet reporting heavy contact, came Captain Blake's voice through the quantum communicator. Enemy ships are trying to break through to the planet's atmosphere. Felixian Defense Force holding position, reported Commander Swiftpaw from the other battle. But the enemy has more ships than we expected. We need support. Jake coordinated between both battles, relaying tactical information and timing updates. The mixed human Felixian teams were working well, but the enemy had superior numbers. The Alliance was slowly losing ground on both fronts. Admiral, Jake said urgently, we need to execute the final phase now before we lose too many ships. Admiral, Hayes nodded. All units prepare for Operation Thermal Shock. Target the enemy command vessels simultaneously. This was the most dangerous part of the plan. Jake and Zara had discovered that the Void Syndicate command ships contained the central feeding systems for the entire fleet. If they could destroy these ships at exactly the same moment, the rest of the enemy fleet would lose their ability to drain energy. But it required a suicide mission. Someone had to get close enough to the command ships to plant thermal bombs that would create massive temperature fluctuations. The explosion would destroy the command ships, but anyone nearby would not survive. I will take the bomb to the Earth command ship, Captain Blake volunteered, and I will handle the Felixian system command ship, said Commander Swiftpaw. Jake looked at Zara and saw the same thought in her eyes. They had started this alliance with a thermal pact, a promise to share warmth and companionship. Now they could end it the same way, together. No, Jake said firmly. Zara and I will take one of the missions. Our thermal bond gives us an advantage in coordinating the attack. Admiral Hayes started to protest, but Zara interrupted. Jake is right. Our partnership has been the foundation of this alliance. We should see it through to the end. Which command ship? Admiral Hayes asked quietly. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Felixian homeworld was losing the battle faster than Earth. Zara's people needed help more urgently. We will take the Felixian system, Jake said. Captain Blake can handle the Earth mission. Admiral Hayes nodded with respect. It has been an honor serving with you both. Jake and Zara boarded a small, fast ship equipped with the thermal bomb and Dr. Foster's most advanced fluctuation devices. As they flew toward the massive Void Syndicate command ship, Jake thought about how much his life had changed since that cold night when he wished for warmth. Are you scared? Zara asked as they approached the enemy vessel. Terrified, Jake admitted, but also grateful. 6 months ago I was alone and miserable. Now I'm about to save 2 worlds with my best friend. Zara smiled, showing her small, sharp teeth. The thermal pact brought us together for this moment. I can feel it. They infiltrated the command ship through a damaged section of the hull. Inside, they found a horrifying sight. Thousands of tubes and machines that were draining heat from captured planets and storing it in massive containers. The ship was literally feeding on the thermal energy of entire worlds. But as they moved deeper into the ship, they discovered something unexpected. In the central chamber, they found not monsters, but desperate survivors. The Void Syndicate were the remains of a once thriving species whose own son had died. They had become parasites not out of evil, but out of necessity. "They are just trying to survive," Zara whispered as they watched the alien survivors huddled around thermal energy containers. Jake looked at the thermal bomb in his hands. These creatures had destroyed worlds and killed billions, but they were also refugees from a cosmic disaster beyond their control. "There has to be another way," Jake said. Instead of planting the bomb, Jake activated his communicator and spoke to the Void Syndicate survivors in their own language, which Zara's translation device made possible. "We know your son died," Jake said. "We know you need thermal energy to survive, but you do not have to steal it. We can help you." The Void Syndicate leader, a tall, thin creature with dark skin and large eyes, stared at Jake in amazement. "You would offer aid to your enemies?" "You became our enemies because you were desperate," Jake replied. "But desperation does not have to lead to destruction. Humans and Felixians have learned to share warmth. We can teach you the same." Zara stepped forward, her fur glowing with warmth. "The thermal pact is about more than sharing heat. It is about building connections that help everyone survive." The Void Syndicate leader looked at his dying people, then at the alien creatures offering hope instead of destruction. "What do you propose?" he asked. Jake smiled. "Join our alliance. Stop attacking planets and start building thermal generators. We have the technology to create artificial suns. You can have all the heat you need without destroying other worlds." The negotiation took precious minutes while the space battle continued outside. Finally, the Void Syndicate leader agreed to a ceasefire. His ships would stop attacking if the Alliance would help them build new thermal energy sources. Jake contacted both fleets simultaneously. "All units, cease fire. The enemy has agreed to join our alliance. We have a new plan." Admiral Hayes's voice crackled with disbelief. "Say again? The enemy is surrendering?" "Not surrendering," Jake corrected. "Joining. We are going to help them build artificial suns instead of letting them drain real ones." Captain Blake's laughter came through the communicator. Only Jake Miller could turn a galactic war into a diplomatic negotiation. 6 months later, Jake and Zara stood on the observation deck of the new Alliance station, watching as Void Syndicate engineers worked alongside humans and Felixians to construct massive thermal generators. The three species had become partners instead of enemies. The Thermal Alliance, as they now called themselves, had grown to include 15 different species, all united by the principle that warmth should be shared, not stolen. Jake's accidental wish for companionship had become a galactic movement. "Do you ever regret making that wish?" Zara asked as they watched the construction work. Jake put his arm around her warm,